telling you a secret that I've been keeping from you for the
All
last
right, she's
2
announcing
years. Which is that my brand new album.
Oh, a new album? And
comes out April 19th. It's called The Tortured Poets Department. I'm gonna go and post the cover right now backstage. Thank you, I love you.
it was going to be a re-recording. It's a whole new album.
Yeah, there was somebody in the background was just like jaw open.
All I wanted, I wanted to watch the Grammys because of reasons, because I knew some of the people that were going to be there performing, nominated. Like, I need somewhere to put my anxious energy. So I'm putting it out here. What are my first impressions? My first she's back to not showing her full face. Part of it is giving lingerie commercial, lingerie ad, but like not exactly, but also sort of yes. She doesn't have her name on it. So as with everything, this is what happened with Midnight. I got it in my head of what I thought would be a good idea based on the concept. And I need to not do that. I also did this, I did this for a while with Wes Anderson. I was like, I need to stop having any notions about what it's going to be. So I just try not to think about it. Once Wes Anderson announces another movie, I'm just like, I'm not going to think about it. I'm just not going to think about it. And then we'll see what happens. But here I am thinking about it. So she led us astray. Or did she lead us astray? We knew something was going to happen because she made her profile picture black and white, kind of. And then, but I also heard that the Grammys have a policy where you can't announce or endorse anything. So I'm not entirely sure how this went the way that it went. And so I thought that if she was going to announce anything, it was going to be Reputation Taylor's version. But I guess it would be kind of funny for her to announce a re-recording at a big award show. If she was going to announce anything, but that was still what was in my mind. That was in all of our minds. I mean, I guess the Reputation drop could still happen. We had our indicators. Because at the Karma music video, we had 1989 was at 8, which is when it was announced, right? It was announced in August, and then Reputation was at 2. Black now, but instead we're getting the White Album in February, but who knows? So back to, why am I not? So what she seems to be going for, I mean, it's called, the Tortured Poets Department, desperately trying not to say society. And as I was Googling it, just so that I could have the album cover up and look at it, I saw in the suggested thing was Tortured Poets Society. So I am not the only person doing this. So we're going for, I think it was on her Instagram, the little added image. It looks like a file, a folder, sort of like a manila folder with a tab where she keeps her records, where she keeps her ideas, where she keeps her poetry and her life. So we got the lyrics, and so I enter into evidence my tarnished coat of arms, my muses acquired like bruises, my talismans and charms, the tick 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 of love bombs, my veins of pitch black ink. And then I can't tell if the all's fair in love and poetry, sincerely the chairman of the Tortured Poets Department. If that's somehow worked into the lyrics, or if that's just the tagline of what this is. So it's giving business, it's giving writer core, especially with the bonus track called The Manuscript that'll be coming out. And even the vinyl that you can pre-order looks like a book. So she's working with, I don't know how to say her last name, I'm sorry, Beth Garibrandt again, whom I have really enjoyed. I think they started working together on Folklore, and then she's been doing just all of her work since then. So immediately, I have my ideas of what I think it should be, but none of those are gonna work. I was very wrong about Midnight's. I'm guessing that she's still going to be working with Jack and maybe Aaron, but if that's my guess, then maybe it'll be wrong. And so then if that's the case, Jack is a sort of a soundscape artist. He loves his nerdy little sounds. like his, you know, his Moog synthesizers and things like that. So what struck me, and I had completely forgotten about it, so she said in her little speech, it's a secret that she's been keeping for 2 years, and I thought it was Reputation. I'm like, oh, she's announcing it, it's happening. And then it ended up not being that, and then I completely forgot that she had said that. And I saw somebody online say, oh, you know, this is 2 years old, and I was like, where did you get that information? It's because she literally said it. So 2 years ago, that puts us, you know, more or less 2 years ago, that puts us in February of 2022. So one of the things that I'm not really sure of is how long it takes her, or just like anyone, just the whole entire process to, you know, get all of your work together, you know, get all your ideas, write, record, do the photo shoot, do, you know, you have to come up with all of your little ideas, you got to get the artwork, like the other artwork, and I don't know how long that takes. So if she's been keeping this secret for 2 years, that means that it existed in some form, probably in the early half of 2022. So that being said, is it sort of going to be just not a continuation of Midnights, but sort of a continuation of Midnights? And I think for me, you know, when she released Midnights or announced Midnights, like I really got caught up on the idea of that everything would thematically make sense and all of it would tie together. And for me, it didn't as much. Even the 13 Sleepless Nights thing, I don't particularly think that the songs match that description. Like they can. I think it just didn't play out in the way that I thought it would. I really had it in my head what I thought it was going to sound like sonically and what it was going to be about, which was my mistake. I shouldn't have guessed. And so, you know, right now it's giving writer core, as I said. It seems to be leaning back into kind of more of the folklore, Evermore thing. But, you know, maybe this will be a pop rock album. Maybe this will be her jazz album. We don't know. Somebody else probably knows. Other people are better at guessing this type of thing than I am. It's 2 albums. The little vinyl picture has the one at the front, but then you can see the other one coming out the back. So it's a double album. I don't think Midnights is. And I mean, really, that's just, yeah, it's just side A, side B. That's just, I mean, it's a length issue. You can only fit so much information. So, okay, at 33 RPM, they hold up to 25 minutes per side. So if it's a double album with, you know, the bonus track, that means we're just looking at an album that's more than 50 minutes, but then you have a whole other vinyl. What? Add to cart, 16 tracks, bonus track, the manuscript. Yeah, 2 ghosted white vinyl discs. It is like interesting though. So the collector's edition CD, it has this folder, you know, where it's like called the manuscript, and then it has artifacts, file name, the Tortured Poets Department, the manuscript. Oh, those are the patches, which looks like there's a little writing quill. Back to the quill. Department bookmark, the manuscript magnet, and 4 photo cards. See, you could really go thickly with this concept of it feeling like it's all very laid out, organized, and have it be commentary on so many things through the lens of her living her life. But anyway, back to when it was written, and if it's gonna sound, I don't know what the sound is gonna be. I assume that it's gonna be similar to Midnights in some ways, hopefully less confused sounding, which I know is kind of a weird thing to say, but like it works with Midnights, but I think I would rather a simpler, cleaner sound and maybe not so many sound effects. Sorry, Jack. So this is probably, she wrote it in the early part of 2022. Was it a continuation of Midnight's writing? Because we know for a fact that at least she was writing. One of the things that I often think of is that I feel that she, or just probably people in general, I'm not sure if this is true, have things that they collect over time. Like, I guess I feel that Taylor's scrapbooks, not scrapbooks, but like kind of, she has her bits and pieces of lyrics that sometimes, things that are just floating in her head. I don't always think that it's just sort of out of nowhere. So when things are written quickly, you don't know how much of that was floating in there, even if it was never put down on paper, how long it had been floating in her head. But we know that, you know, You're Losing Me was done December of 2021, which honestly kind of pushes back everything. Then, because it took almost another year for Midnights to be released, and I don't think it takes that long to turn around a record. Maybe I should look that up, but I'm not going to. So it kind of pushes back to maybe Midnight's writing being in 2021, which makes sense because I think in 2021 she won the Grammy for Folklore. And then I think Aaron Dessner said that they were together around that time, and I think they wrote Would've, Could've, Should've and 2 other 3 a.m. tracks because it was with him. And I think that he said that those were the first ones written for Midnight. And then, so that's February 2021. And then the sound evolved over time. So maybe Midnights was a mostly 2021 written album released in 2022, but then this album was written mostly in early 2022 as a very close continuation of Midnights, which I mean, like, it makes sense, but it's just the fact that she said that, you know, she's been keeping this a secret for 2 years. Like, it was ready to go more or less by 2022. So then she would have to, you know, delay it. Okay, you've already got Midnights going, so you do that, and then you're going to announce tour, and then you're going to be touring, and then you're going to announce a couple more re-recordings. And so, like, it does make sense, because otherwise she would have had to have released it this past year, and it would have been confusing. So, like, I get it, but then that just means we feel behind is kind of what that amounts to. We feel very behind. It has occurred to me though, like, what's she gonna do when she runs out of colors? You know, it's funny that she has stuck with the white border thing. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, we're still there. We're still in the white border era, but it's centered. And then with the coloring of the picture, I couldn't think of, like, what does it reminded me of something. I couldn't think of what it reminded me of. And then I realized that it reminds me of The Whole Story by Kate Bush, with the sepia picture in the middle and then the serif font. I mean, I do like it. Like, it's very pretty. It's very classic. It is giving underwear ad though. I think I'm still in shock, honestly. And I'm just like, why? Why do you do this? We were all prepared for something else, and then you throw us a curveball. It's like, well, our brains aren't adjusted for that, Taylor. And I remember, like, I've been, like, thinking this lately because she's not big on album titles that are more than one word. And it is somewhat a little surprising because I was expecting her to release an album this year. I thought it would be kind of weird if she didn't, because she sort of got back on schedule. But I thought that, I don't know what I was thinking, that we would get a summer announcement for this, and then we would get a fall, like an October-ish release. But April, and I thought about that because she hasn't really done a lot of, like, spring releases are not as much her thing, but it's like, why does she have to put this out now, schedule-wise? It could be because we're behind. It is a lot to have to work around the tour and the type of tour it is, because it's not just a Midnights tour. I think it was probably much simpler when it was just like album release, tour for that album, album release, tour for that album. And that's just not what's going on right now. The re-recordings have probably complicated things, and I know that people have wanted the re-recordings to really have their own time to breathe, like their individual eras again, but she can't. We're gonna fall so far behind. And so it's possible that, you know, she already has the next album ready to go, more or less. And so she's got to get this one out. But yeah, so she probably wrote this early-ish, 2022, over a couple of months or through 2022. I mean, we don't know. It could have been a year and a half ago. She could have written this in the later half of 2022. But of course, that is going to tie in with the time frame that she and Joe were probably officially falling apart. So one would assume that this is going to be more meat on that. So it's an interesting impression. Sort of this idea of, you know, the formality of folders, the files, how things are being presented. There's like a business-like style, business/writer core. Then the album cover is her in a very casual, half-dressed, lying down in bed setting. And there was something that went around that her 11th album and the Reputation re-recording had been done around the same time, which could still be true, because I've assumed that she's been done with the re-recordings for definitely over a year or more, because I assumed that she would try to kind of get those out. So that could still be true. And again, Reputation is probably recorded, as is probably Debut. So as she was, if that's true, that they were being recorded at the same time, she was re-recording the album about the person she was falling in love with and recovering from her life's work, not yet. We didn't even have that part of it yet, but just her job feeling torpedoed. So she's re-recording that one and like recovering from that. And then this was being recorded, which is presumably going to contain material about the deterioration of that relationship, and the aesthetics seem to lean on the idea of work life. It's a department, the Tortured Poets department. I did see something that somebody said, oh, it's a jab at Joe because some chat group of his was called like Tortured Men Department or something like that. I don't know. I mean, it could be true. Sometimes the weirdest stuff is like, oh yeah, that ended up being true. And so maybe it is a jab. And like, I did think about that, you know, it's kind of this thing with him of the idea of serious art, and maybe he felt that the art that came from portrait artists was more viable and respectable than anything in the pop sphere. But, you know, it could be about anything. I just say that to cover my bases. I have lots of ideas of what it could be in my own head, but I'm not gonna try to like figure out too much. But it does seem like it was done, like almost completely done, before Midnight's was even announced. What a whirlwind to have to keep track of. My goodness gracious. But then the funny thing is, you know, if we're on our little Easter egg hunts, it's like, well, should we go back and like look at stuff when we were looking at things for Easter eggs for, you know, re-recordings, when in reality there were Easter eggs for this because it's been in existence for 2 years. All right, I just needed to air my anxiety and excitement, and I know I seem kind of like wah-wah, but it's just because I'm like, what's happening? And I got thrown off course, man. I'm still not used to this. People releasing stuff, it's not how I grew up. It's a lot for me. All right, that's it for now. We'll talk later. So long.